Professor Dr. Himlal Ghimire has done PhD on pilgrimage tourism, special focus on Lumbini and postdoc on Buddhist pilgrimage comparison of Lumbini and Shikoku, Japan. He is a visit professor, fellow of the Japan Foundation and International Research Center for Japanese Studies, Kyoto and Nanjing Institute for Religion and Culture, Nanjing University, Nagoya, Japan, founder board of director of Redon College, affiliated with Tribhuvan University, Nepal. Thank you. So now the floor is yours. Thank you.
Very good afternoon. Namaste. It's my pleasure to be in front of you and then be the session chair. BITM, actually, the concept was started some 4-5 years ago. And in 2019, there was first edition of BITM. And actually, Achit Guragai, who has developed this concept, and then they had this BITM first edition. So this year, after the pandemic, they thought to organize this and then support from the government, hosted by the government, and everything, funding and everything done by Nepal Tourism Board, support by Lumbini Development Trust and other organizations. We are able to organize this particular event. And now I'm going to talk a little bit about our keynote speaker, Professor Dr. Max Digg, who has come all the way from Berlin. Professor Saab, please, Max Digg, here, yeah. And actually, I took over this position to work in the BITM Secretariat nearly 1 month ago. Please. And with my humble request, he accepted my proposal to come all the way from Germany with very short notice. It's a pleasure to have him here. If I have to talk a little bit about Professor Dr. Max Digg, he is the professor at Cardiff University and University of Vienna. He knows, he speaks several languages. If I have to count, around 15 languages. Even he can speak Sanskrit, Nepali, Pali, Hindi, Japanese, Korean, I don't know, and Chinese also. So, it's pleasure. And then he had been working in various universities, not only in UK, in Japan, in China, in India, even in Nepal also he worked at the our LIRI, the Lumbini International Research Institute. Thank you, Professor Max Digg, for accepting our request and coming all the way from there. And we would like to hear from him about the keynote topic, that is the exploring the Buddha land, a gateway to Buddhist pilgrimage circuits. So over to you, Professor Max Digg. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Everybody can hear me all the way down there? Okay. Thank you very much. Himla, I'm using the first name because our history goes back for quite a long time. So I think that justifies to use the first name. And then again, a big thanks for bringing me here. I was very happy, as you will hear in a moment, why to come. Now, this is a bit tricky because I know that this is the hardest time of the day, right? You had lunch, late lunch, digestion is setting in, and I will try my very best not to let you fall asleep. So I will kind of move between boredom and kind of excitement is probably not the right term, but I'll try my best. So the title was given to me by Himlal. So I had to fit in then, and you will hear how I fit myself into that topic. So I will not have the time and also not the expertise, despite the fact that he laudated my language knowledge to a degree that you probably haven't seen it, but there was shame in my face when he said that. So I don't have the expertise to touch on all the phenomena of Buddhist traveling, and I'm calling it Buddhist traveling, in a period of more than 2,500 years. So we had heard that today already, since the time of the Buddha until now. But it should be pointed out that already in early historical times, new Buddhist ideas, new Buddhist practices led to a refocusing of religious traveling in more regional and cultural diverse setting after Buddhism spread all over Asia, in Central Asia, East Asia, that is China, Japan, Korea, Southeast Asia, pre-Muslim, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos, and other regions, of course. All these regions developed over time Buddhist pilgrimage circuits of their own. Nepal is, of course, a very good example of the juxtaposition, so the neighborhood, so to speak, what could be called of traditionally developed pilgrimage to and at Buddhist sites in the Kathmandu Valley, like Swayambhunath or the stupa at Bodha, and which have a continuous history, and the ancient Buddhist sites here down in the south in the Terai. We visited one which we could call the Mula Sthanas, or the root sites of Buddhism, linked to the life of the historical Buddha, Lumbini and Kapilavastu Tilorakot, which had, of course, to be rediscovered and retrieved in the late 19th and early 20th century, because for centuries Buddhism wasn't present in India, and so these places had been kind of forgotten. There's debate about if this really was the case, but they had to be rediscovered in the 19th century. Now, the presentation will then conclude with some observations on the relationship between Buddhist sites and possible sensible and sustainable approaches to traveling along the Buddhist circuit. I shouldn't probably do that, but I'm still trying it. Today, which are neither neglecting history and cultural context nor the religious and educational needs of the targeted clientele, so the travelers. Now, let me start with two confessions. One more general and one more personal. First, I'm not a specialist in tourism or tourism studies. Second, I had about 7 days, if I count correctly, to prepare this presentation, which for an academic is an awfully short time of period. So you may ask yourself quite rightfully, why on earth did the guy personal? Okay. Obviously, I was loud enough without microphone. That's good to know for the next power cut. So, the more general reason is I've been working on Buddhist traveling in history so historical traveling, often and sometimes not very reflectedly called pilgrimage. I therefore have an invested interest in Buddhist sacred sites and places which are mentioned in Buddhist texts. So that's the general one, and the two slides actually show you the Lumbini International Research publications I was involved in. One is, as you can see on the left-hand side, directly on pilgrimage. So edited together with the director of the LIRI, who is sitting very much in the back. He shouldn't sit there, but he's still there. The second, more personal reason is that I have, in connection with this, a very special connection with Lumbini. If I remember correctly, my first stay goes back to the early year 2001. Christoph, correct me if I'm not correct. When I had the wonderful opportunity to do research in the Lumbini International Research Institute and could produce a small booklet on Lumbini and Kapilavastu. That's the one on the right-hand side, which is, I think, now out of print, Christoph, right? It's online, okay. So you can download it if you search for it. So that's actually on the historical descriptions that you find in the different sources about Lumbini and Kapilavastu. So this was at a time, I remember, when there was only very slow internet connection via telephone line. So that meant that to connect with my family back in Germany, I sometimes had to wait up to an hour until the connection built up. And when it had just come to the point to connect, it broke down again. So I had to start the whole process again. So a lot of things have happened now in between. That's good to see. Now, while my willingness to return to Lumbini is probably understandable in the light of all of this, some thoughts may be needed and may be useful to speculate about the reason why I was invited to give a keynote speech or a keynote address in the first place. And of course, here I can only guess because I can't look into the brains of Himlal and other people. I may say that I have been, as I've already pointed out, doing research on Buddhist traveling and pilgrimage now for more than 30 years. I am mainly interested in the Chinese Buddhist travelers. We heard about them in the Sacred Garden this morning, who came to South Asia, to India, more general, of course, including Nepal, between the early 5th and the 12th centuries. And I will talk about these a little bit more later. In this context, I have also done some research on Lumbini and Kapilavastu and on early medieval reports on Nepal, that is, in this case, the Kathmandu Valley from the Licchavi period, so well, quite spread out a little bit. So these may have been reasons enough for the organizers to invite me here. But, and I have to see what the slide actually now is. No, this comes later, sorry. Why do I go back? Okay, this is later. But I have to confess that there is also a point of self-interest of my agreeing to come here and to deliver a keynote lecture at an event like the present one. For about 4 years now I can switch, I've been one of the two principal investigators of a research project in India, in Bihar, called the Xuanzang Trail, funded by the Bihar Heritage Development Society, that is the Bihari government, of course, and supported by the government. The aim of this project on the research side of things is to locate and verify the Buddhist sites mentioned by the famous Buddhist traveler Xuanzang. That is my part, my contribution, because I'm reading, translating, commenting the text. In the region of Magadha, south of the Ganga, but also in North Bihar, thus bordering the Nepalese Terai. My own role, as I said, in this project is to deliver the textual and historical foundation of the exploration of the different Buddhist sites, while my Indian colleague, Dr. Bijoy Chowdhury, pretty much in the middle of that picture, which was taken in the wonderful new Bihar Museum in Patna. So my Indian colleague, Dr. Bijoy Chowdhury, and his team are doing the practical surveying and archaeological work on the ground. Sometimes we travel together, then I tell them, this is the right place, this is the wrong place. The project is meant to create an infrastructure, to use the terminology of our panel, a circuit, for religiously oriented and informed traveling. Now, something which you may actually call pilgrimage or Buddhist tourism. In extension of this, my team and I are considering the practical outputs of our research, our findings on the ground, and are planning in the next phase of the project to produce and deliver material that can be used by stakeholders like state governments, local administration, travel agencies, and so on. Thus, my more selfish reason to come here is to observe and to learn about what is presently going on in terms of Buddhist tourism. What are the visions and what are the needs, what are the difficulties, etc., etc. Now, my speech itself will be divided into 3 parts. Don't get anxious. I'm not starting here. It will be in time. So 3 parts. I will reflect, and pardon me to fall in this kind of typical habit of an academic, on terminology, on words. What do we mean when we say Buddhist tourism, pilgrimage, Buddhist circuit, etc.? This may sound very dry and theoretical. I agree. Hopefully you will not fall asleep. But I'm convinced that a good deal of self-reflection has to be done before any kind of serious practical work can be done then. You would certainly not start to repair an engine of a car without having acquired a certain amount of theoretical knowledge how it works. Well, some may, but the results probably will be very disappointing. Well, secondly, I will try to give you a historical, second chapter, so to speak, a historical overview of Buddhist traveling and pilgrimage. And some of these references to historical traveling have already been mentioned in the Sacred Garden. And again, this is not to bore you with unrelated historical facts, but it's clearly linked to what sells modern Buddhist pilgrimage. Without the knowledge of the historical, or let's say the assumed historical importance of certain places, for instance, like Lumbini, people would not go on tours to see them. Why would they? And the knowledge about these places comes directly or indirectly from historical travelers and academics working on them, like me and my colleagues. Third point then will be the coda, the end. I will point out from my own scholarly perspective my experience over the year and my role as an investigator on this project called the Xuanzang Trail Project, ways in which scholars can or could contribute to a sustainable and meaningful Buddhist tourism. And I hope that some conversations will develop then, that I actually get a picture of what you think about these possibilities. So I start with terminology. I think terminology: pilgrimage, traveling, tourism, Buddhism, Buddhist circuit. It's quite broad mix, right? Do you all know what you're talking about? Discerning categories, more precisely, is, as I've already pointed out, not necessarily just an intellectual game, but may help, in my maybe naive understanding at least, to get business and marketing strategies right. I therefore want to present some basic thoughts about how the different terms we are using as scholars can be conceived of. From a strictly scholarly perspective, not all religious travel is pilgrimage, I would claim. Nor is all traveling necessarily connected to tourism. That's something I'm not quite sure about. You probably have better answers to that. At Bodh Gaya International Airport, to give you an example, I once met a group of Chinese women who told me that they traveled to Bodh Gaya every year to spend 2 weeks in a meditational retreat and never visited or saw the Mahabodhi temple complex. They certainly are not pilgrims, then, in a relatively open sense of the term, if you don't define pilgrimage as a spiritual one where you sit in a monastery and meditate and then you are on a pilgrimage. That's another way of defining it, but that's not an academic one. Pilgrimage may be defined relatively loosely as the intentional traveling to places which bear religious meaning with a religious purpose in mind. For instance, venerating a deity, venerating the Buddha, a saint, linked to the place, and asking for something, or in the Buddhist case, gaining merit, punya. A scholarly definition would add then also a social or communal element to this. Pilgrimage is normally done in groups. Therefore, if you meditate somewhere, that's not really, in that sense, pilgrimage. So it's done in groups, following a certain sequence of places or sites, and often it requires a particular ritual element before, during, or after the journey. And ritual here means repetition. So you're doing it in a way that has been transmitted to you in your tradition. Pilgrims normally have a basic understanding of the religious meaning of their journey. So I wouldn't call a Westerner that just travels around out of curiosity a pilgrim in academic sense. This discerns them, the pilgrims, let us say, from travelers who are interested, or as I just said, just curious about certain places which bear religious meaning. Like, for instance, these Western travelers who visit Buddhist and Hindu sites in India or in Nepal. You may object that this definition is too narrow because it excludes exactly the just mentioned category of travelers, or does not allow for, let us say, individual travelers, backpackers, for instance, who follow the footsteps of previous pilgrims. But academic definitions, unfortunately, tend to be more restricted by a set of features gained by an analytic approach. Scholars like me would say these definitions are more precise, which in our specific case of Buddhist traveling may still lead, however, to some insight into the different motivations, goals, and needs of different groups of travelers. Probably important for you as the ones that deliver or buy, in some cases, the product. As for instance, specialists like my dear colleague now, Dr. Shinde, have observed backpackers, a group of Thai lay people, for instance, accompanied by monks, Chinese tourists, or Western educational tourists travel quite differently and probably need to be served in a different way. So getting your head around about different kind of definitions and motivations, goals, is not just a shunya matter, right? It matters. The matter is more difficult for me when it comes, as I already said, to define tourism, since I'm not a specialist in tourist studies. Now, I look at tourism from the perspective as a historian, from its historical development, and see it as the development of a travel activity in the 19th century, which has developed from a very specific form of higher class self-organized traveling in the Western context to a more organized form of traveling. While originally tourism as an organized form of travel had indeed some educational, sometimes even religious background, like in the case of the first Western tourists, travelers, touring the Holy Land or Palestine, the Christian Holy Land, in the 19th century. So there was a religious motivation when they went. Today we are also looking at static and mass form of tourism, that is huge numbers of travelers and tourists who sometimes stay at the same place from the very beginning of their journey to the very end. And I know these kind of travelers very well because the British actually tend to do this exactly. So they go to Turkey and then stay at one place and never really travel, except sitting on a plane. Now let us try to apply all of this to my own situation. When I am exploring Buddhist sites, let us say in Bihar, I am neither a tourist nor a pilgrim. Why is that? First, I am not a Buddhist and am not undertaking my journey for religious purposes. Why am I doing it? In a way, out of curiosity, to gain knowledge and then prepare it in a way that it can be shared with my peers, my academic colleagues, or hopefully with the rest of the world, people like you, or even the normal traveler, the normal tourist. Second, I usually organize or get organized my own tour according to my needs and interests. And these are different from what the self-organized backpackers or tourists who have booked a trip are. We may share curiosity, but I would claim that I am more knowledge-informed and oriented in my travels. They consume places, the tourists consume places and data linked to them, while I at least try to produce data about these places. So there's a difference. No, I'm neither a pilgrimage nor a normal traveler. When I'm traveling, I'm staying in Indian district circuit houses, which are only accessible to people who have connections with the local administration, which means that I'm not dependent on what a normal tourist requires. I don't probably go to an agency and ask, can you please do this for me? Because this is done for me, or I know how to do it. Even now, coming here, I'm neither a pilgrim nor a tourist. You invited me to give a keynote on Buddhist traveling and pilgrimage, and I came because I think I have something to say about these topics. I think this is neither what a pilgrim nor a tourist would do. So I think what distinguishes a pilgrim or tourist from me is that this type of traveler consumes either religious benefit or knowledge experience. Both go back home and tell people, me and the pilgrim, go back home and tell people about their gain and experiences, but they do this in a very different way and with very different intentions. So when I go back, I'm telling my people something else than a tourist would tell them. We may end up in the pub, but we are telling different stories. Obviously, the term Buddhist circuit, here, I have to admit that in this respect, again, I learned a lot from Dr. Schinde's 2022 paper on the subject, and I'm looking forward to hear what he has to say about this tomorrow. And we had already long conversations, so a new friendship has grown, I would say. The Buddhist circuit term has been used for some time now to describe projected or real travel tours organized either by religious, state or private agents in the cultural studies sense rather than the economic sense, the last one at least, to what in Buddhist text is really conceived as and called from an early period onwards the great places, the four Mahasthanas. We heard about them already this morning from Venerable Meteya. The places that are linked to the most important soteriologically, religiously most important events in the Buddha's life. His birth, Lumbini, enlightenment, first sermon, and the parinirvana. Although I expect, of course, everybody to know the respective place names. I only mentioned Lumbini, you have heard the, you can cheat now, you have heard the other ones before. I will talk about these a little bit later. These four places, of course, were later then extended, again, we heard about this already this morning, to the 8 great places, the Ashtamahasthana, so expanding, adding the places where the Buddha performed the miracle of Shravasti, where he came down from Jayastimsha heaven near Sankasha, and where he tamed the mad elephant in Rajagriha, and where he received an alms bowl of honey from a monkey, or looked back in another version of a text at the city of Vaishali when moving towards Kushinagara. So all these events actually were then mapped into the landscape, and that's why we know that they are there. It should be emphasized that this is the macro-geographic framework of what I would call a biographical cycle, linked to the life of the Buddha, of course. I didn't invent that. I'm following more or less the French archaeologist and art historian Alfred Vouge, who divided his Buddha biography, so one of the big Buddha biography of the 19th century, written in French, but also translated into English, published in 1949, into geographical cycles, so linked to places, according to where a string of biographical events were located in the Buddhist biographical sources. Thus, for him, there is a cycle of Kapilavastu. That's interesting because he doesn't speak of a cycle of Lumbini, he speaks of the cycle of Kapilavastu, which then includes Lumbini because it's the birth and the youth of the Buddha, right? So you can already see something has shifted from 49 to where we are now. Now it's probably rather the cycle of Lumbini if you include Tilurakot Kapilavastu. Now there's the cycle of Bodh Gaya, of course, enlightenment, there's the cycle of Sarnath. Now geographically, there are many other sites in these cycles which often are not much visited by historical and modern travelers, but still have been identified on the ground and may be activated in a more fine-grained pilgrimage in a specific cycle. So you can actually probably go in Lumbini not only to the Mayadevi shrine, but you can ask Vasanta Bidari to bring you to all these other places where archaeological discoveries were made and maybe get an explanation about the meaning of these places. So this would be microcosmic cycles that you could create, not only focusing on this one thing. You go to Bodh Gaya and then it's the big thing, and this is what you see and then you go. There's more, and you can develop more, I would say. Now, Buddhist traveling, second. Traveling in pilgrimage, a historical overview, and I try to do that very quickly. If we believe Buddhist tradition, traveling and pilgrimage were part of the religion from the very beginning. In a way, the life of the Buddha after leaving the palace or the household over there in Kapilavastu, the Abhinishkramana, was a constant series of traveling or journeys through the Buddhist heartland in the eastern Gangetic plains. The sutras and other Buddhist canonical texts constantly refer to concrete places in these wider regions. One of the reasons that we can talk and know about these places and today can visit them in the first place, because without the place names we wouldn't actually know, or in the 19th century they wouldn't have known where to start. Where are these places? Because they have names, you can find them. Pilgrimage, more specifically, was instigated, and we have heard that, I think, twice at least today already, so I may kind of shorten this, was instigated by the Buddha himself. Now, I don't know where I am with my, this one. Who, in the Mahaparinirvana Sutra, towards the end of his life, Vasanta already pointed out in the Sacred Garden, so I can just refer you here to that version of the text, kind of advises his disciples, and you can see it's lay people. It's not for the monastics, right? It's lay people. If you read the original text, it's always saying upasakas and upasikas, who are advised to visit the 4 places, which is birth, Lumbini, Bodh Gaya, Sarnath, and Kushinagara. Yeah? So I'm not reading this out. I can actually spare my time here and just point out that the Buddha here clearly recommends as a practice for the lay people a pilgrimage to the places of the 4 most important events in his life, the 4 Mahasthanas, the birth in Lumbini, the enlightenment in Bodh Gaya, first sermon in Sarnath, and Kushinagara as the place of the Parinirvana. And this is what, if you remember the maps of the Buddhist circuits, these are the major points on these circuits, of course. How this advice or instruction of the Buddha himself was put into practice in the first 200 years or so, we do not know, since we have no direct sources except for some few stupas or other archaeological remains, the oldest parts of which, the oldest layers, may claim such a high age as the time of the Buddha or shortly after, and therefore witness the movement of people for the purpose of veneration. Some of these places actually quite around the corner. One, the stupa remains of Gotihawa, just over there towards the west. In Vaishali, the very old stupa that is pre-Mauryan, and of course in Lumbini, the place we have seen this morning. Historically, more light is then thrown on pilgrimage, on Buddhist pilgrimage, when writing appears in South Asia for the first time in form of course, the inscriptions of the Mauryan ruler Ashoka. As we know from these inscriptions, and we have seen the best example of these inscriptions this morning, the Lumbini inscription is the most clear Brahmi inscription from the Mauryan period. As we know from these inscriptions and archaeological remains from the same period, Ashoka did not only support Buddhism, but also actively improved the infrastructure in his empire. This, of course, was not specifically and exclusively done to foster religious or Buddhist pilgrimage, but it was the precondition for all kinds of religious activities, including the spread of the religion along a network of roads that were, of course, linked to trade. So here religion and trade go hand in hand. In his edict, this is expressed quite clearly, and I think this one, sorry for the kind of confusion with all these pictures. This is very nicely expressed in the so-called Topra Edict, the 7th Rock Edict. This is the translation by the famous epigraphist Sirkar. Thus saith King Brihadarshi, Ashoka, beloved of the gods, banyan trees have planted by me on the roads, so that they will offer shade to beasts and men. Besides, mango groves have been caused to be planted by me for the same purposes. And I have caused wells to be excavated at intervals of 8 groshas, and rest houses have also been caused to be constructed by me. Moreover, numerous watering sheds have been caused to be set up by me at different places for the enjoyment of beasts and men. This provision of enjoyment is, however, certainly a trifle, because mankind has been blessed with many such comforts by former kings as well as by myself. But I have done this for the following purposes, that is, that people might conform to such practices of dharma. And it may be useful to point out that dharma in this case does not mean necessarily exclusively the Buddhist dharma. It means Ashoka's dharma, which was a mixture of, let's say, state policies and, well, informed by dharmic thoughts taken from the Jain tradition, but particularly from the Buddhist tradition. Now, the historical Ashoka certainly was invested in all the activities ascribed to him in the legend about his life, the Ashoka Avadana. All the major Buddhist sites mentioned, and we heard about this morning again, mentioned in his biography, in the Ashoka Avadana, preserve signs of his activities in forms of stupas, pillars, and inscriptions, everything that we find on the ground archaeologically. As shown by the best preserved of these pillars inscription, that is the Lumbini one. These activities of the king were aggrandized and embellished, of course, then in the biographical legend in the Ashoka Avadana. Please don't read that as a historical biography. It is legend. No? It is a hagiography, the story of a saint rather than a historical document. In that text, we learn that the king opened the original 8 relic stupas, no, that's too early, and divided the relics of the Buddha into, wow, 84,000 portions, which were then enshrined and distributed all across Jambudvipa, that is, of course, in a more narrow sense, India or South Asia. This meant, of course, then, as a concept, not as a historical reality, but as a concept, probably coming from the fact that there were more pilgrimage places already existent, that people now had access not only to more, not only access to more sites with sacred presence of the Buddha, the relics, of course, that's the presence of the Buddha, but also that the chances that one could visit and venerate one of these stupas, so 84,000 all across India, actually was that you could go just to the neighborhood and then find a stupa and you could venerate the Buddha. Short pilgrimage then. You don't have to travel all the way from South India to Bodh Gaya or whatever to Lumbini. You actually can do it around the corner. A more individualized journey of the king of Ashoka to the different places linked with the life of the Buddha, a real pilgrimage, if you like, is also told in the legend of Ashoka. Here, Ashoka is brought by his teacher, the monk Upagupta, again we heard about him this morning, to the more important places in the life of the Buddha at Lumbini, and the circuit, that circuit actually starts in Lumbini and then goes in a kind of biographical sequence, which would be a zigzag course all across northern India. So Lumbini, Kapilavastu, Bodh Gaya, Sarnath, Shravasti, Samkasya, Rajagriha, and Kushinagara, you count it, and you have the 8 Mahasthana. Yeah? Ashoka, as a good Buddhist layman, pays veneration and then spends money. He builds chaityas or stupas, so you should actually use Ashoka more often in advertising your tours, I would say. He spent money. This is what you want them to do, to a certain extent at least. The journey starts, as it should, in Lumbini. And here it is actually quite detailed. I don't read this out, but what you can see is that the normal kind of description, how the tour is done, is that Upagupta, the monk, brings the king to a place, and points to the place that this is the place where the Buddha was born. And Lumbini is special because Ashoka is not really sure if this is a trustful kind of... So Upagupta has to do something. So he kind of, with his magical power as an arhat, he makes a deity, the tree deity down there, appear in front of Ashoka. And the deity then actually tells Ashoka, yeah, this is the place. You can believe that. And then Ashoka acts. So you can see that the whole story is structured in a specific way. The pilgrimage is there to lead Ashoka to become a very, very supportive layperson. Of course, it's the king. You want to have the king on your side. Now I've skipped that text. Now, the legend here is based, obviously, on some historical reality. And that this is the case is shown by all these stupas, pillars, inscriptions built and found at the Buddhist major sites, going back to the Mauryan period. Although we do not have much evidence of individual pilgrimage, beside of Ashoka, of course, who left the inscriptions, there are some inscriptions in other places, like, for instance, in Sanchi, in Bodh Gaya, in Sarnath, of individuals, of monks who leave very short inscriptions saying, I, monk, blah, 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 came here, and I gave a little bit of money for the merit of my deceased father and mother, blah, blah, blah. These kind of inscriptions, yeah? historically, we have access to more detailed information about Buddhist pilgrimage, about Buddhist traveling, through the records of the already mentioned Chinese pilgrims. And now I become very safe, because that's my turf, so to speak. The Chinese Buddhist travelers who come to South Asia between the early 5th century through the 12th century AD. So a period of about 700-800 years where you have a constant stream of Chinese guys coming. And the specialty of these guys is they love to write. So they go and then they write records. They write about their journeys. And this is how we got these documents. And the late documentation of that actually is quite interesting, because it can be shown by archaeological evidence. These are Chinese inscriptions that were already found in the 19th century in Bodh Gaya. They are from 10th, 11th century, so a little bit later. And this is interesting because it shows that these monks actually were sent by the Chinese emperors to Bodh Gaya to gain merit. So the monks were sent, they gave something to the place, that's what the inscriptions then claim. And then the monk says, and a little bit of punya goes to me, but the bulk goes to the emperor, because he supported me to do this pilgrimage. So these are very interesting documents that have not been studied fully yet. So I'm on it, so after a couple of years, months, there will be some more information about this. Now, not only are the records of these travelers, of the Chinese, interesting as such, because they are there, they actually were, you have to remember this, they were the tools by which the famous Buddhist sites in South Asia, including Lumbini, were discovered and identified after the extinction of Buddhism in its homeland, the heartland in northeast India in the 13th or so century, by Western scholars first, by, of course, English archaeologists, sometimes Indians were also involved, and the emerging interest in the history of Buddhism in South Asia. Through colonialism, I mean, we talked about that a little bit. This was a colonial undertaking. Don't let us forget this. Now, it was the names of the places in the Buddhist texts and the geographical data, directions and distances given by the Chinese travelers, which enabled these early archaeologists, you could say, like Alexander Cunningham, the founding director of the Archaeological Survey of India, to find and excavate most of the major Buddhist sites mentioned in the Buddhist texts. You may know that Lumbini actually was the last big one that was discovered. Now, Cunningham himself had no clue. He just guessed and guessed it wrong, until the Ashokan pillar was excavated here, and then it was 100% clear this is the place. All of this caused me, as a student of Sanskrit and Pali, and ages ago, as an undergraduate student, to focus on these so-called Buddhist pilgrim records. I started translating some of them, not as undergraduate, but later, and tried to reconstruct, based on the texts, the travel routes and places visited by these monks, or described by these monks, which of course include also Kapilavastu and Lumbini. Now, as we are here in Lumbini, and because Himlal asked me to kind of focus a little bit on Lumbini as well, I would like to briefly discuss the accounts of, the accounts of these Chinese pilgrims on Lumbini. We heard about them already in the morning, but it may be good to have an impression from the texts themselves, in my translations, right? So the oldest text is the travelogue of Vouge, who was here in the beginning of the 5th century. And you can see he's relatively brief. So he says 50 Chinese miles, that's about 420 meters. To the east of the city of Kapilavastu is a royal park, and then he describes Lumbini. But anything, if you run through it very quickly, the pond is described, some data are there. Is there anything that is missing? This is what I would do with students. I'm not doing with you now. So I'll come to that point later, and now we jump to, no, this is going back. Why is it going back? To this guy, who is the most important of the Chinese so-called pilgrims or travelers, because his text is the most detailed. It's very long. And I'm working at the moment on a new translation and commentary of this text. You can see Now, please, no, that the text is much longer. Now, it's more detailed. It gives you the microcosmic structure of the place. That's the place where the baby fell down to the ground, where he was caught by Brahma. This is the place where the gods kind of showered him with cold and hot water, and so on and so forth. But see, it's longer. Why doesn't it move? Oh, yeah, this is the one. Oh, no. Sorry. I don't know why. Shouldn't have shown you that. Where is it? There is a description of the pillar. And this is actually what was missing in the earlier pilgrim record. Now, where do I have that? It must be somewhere. Here it is. There's a large stone pillar, and on top of it is a statue of a horse. This was erected by King Ashoka. And then there's this description that we heard this morning when we are standing in front of the pillar, that at least some of us, that actually a flash of lightning split the pillar in the middle, right? So the pillar is mentioned. With a horse, I'm not so 100% sure if that is really what is going on. But the pillar is mentioned. What is not mentioned, interestingly, is the inscription. Now, why is the inscription not mentioned? It's so clearly visible, right? We saw it. It's the clearest we have. Look at this. This is just post-excavation of the pillar. Okay, yeah, that's fine. And you can see it's pretty much the same kind of state. It's pretty black up there. Then the inscription is, I don't know if you can see it, about ground level, where they dug into the ground. And then there's the split running from the top all the way down. Now, why does Xuanzang not mention, now this is about storytelling. Now you can make a story. You can sell a good story when you're standing in front of that thing. You give them the 2 Chinese records and they say, well, where's the inscription? Why did the older pilgrim not mention the pillar at all? While in all other cases, he mentions the pillars when they are there. He even mentions more pillars than there were there. Yeah? Well, I mean, yeah, it's relatively easy to explain. Xuanzang mentions the split, right? So the pillar obviously was kind of underground, all the way to the part above the inscription. That's why it doesn't mention the inscription. But he saw, of course, the fissure. And now going a bit further, you see that the upper part is pretty dirty. It's been before being cleaned. Probably in the 5th century, the whole pillar was covered. It was not visible at all. That's why the older Chinese pilgrim doesn't mention anything about the Lumbini pillar. So there is, if you look into some kind of context in these texts, very often an explanation for things where you normally would say, that doesn't really fit, right? And this is, of course, what we, scholars, are supposed to do. We are trying to find solutions, or at least finding the problems that are there, and then possibly finding solutions for these problems. Now, because I was shown that I have 10 minutes left, I will certainly keep the time. Some final and maybe practical reflections from my side. Now, what can be done with all these data? I showed you one example here on Buddhist sacred places, Buddhist traveling, which my colleagues and I generate and discuss in our works, clearing them out of the texts, of the ground, whatever. What is a sensible way to disseminate the specialists' knowledge, like mine, to the consumers, that is, the tourist, or those who make the places accessible and viable for these travelers, that is, you, I guess. My feeling is that particularly in the context of Buddhist pilgrimage tourism, now I combine something I tried to kind of disentangle before, but I'm doing that for a more practical purpose. The interface between the scholarly side of things, academic side of things, and the potential end users is either missing or not working, I would claim. So we talked about what is not working this morning already. I think the connection between academia, scholars producing that kind of historic knowledge, and the end users is also not working, at least properly. I am hardly asked at all, and I do not blame the other side for that. Over time, I then had to come to realize that I, as a scholar, researcher, and academic, cannot expect the consumers will approach me directly. Although at the same time, I'm convinced that I and my co-researchers can make valuable contributions to the development of Buddhist pilgrimage tours. And sometimes I am actually asked, what is done then with the knowledge is a completely different matter. So there are sometimes I'm not very happy, I have to say. Again, there has to be more communication. So what is the way out of that dilemma? I think it is, as I already mentioned, active communication and the willingness of the academic, me, to communicate with a potential consumer out there. So in business, you would probably call this customer. Although we academics are used to work on a non-profit oriented basis. So that's actually a good point, right? You don't have to pay us anything, or maybe not much, to get that information, the data, if you ask us. And we should, academics, do that in a way which makes the data on knowledge we produce intelligible and digestible in different ways. But what is needed is also an active move from the side of the administration and management of the sacred sites and the travel business towards scholars who normally are living, and I don't exclude myself here, in their own ivory tower, and are quite happy not to be bothered by the everyday problems of organizing journeys or then having delayed flights and all these kind of things. Our texts are very kind of, our material is very patient. It's lying there and it's waiting for us to do something with it, right? So we are used to this kind of very kind of not easygoing, but it's a different way of dealing with things. In order to contribute to a sustainable development of Buddhist pilgrimage, I would need to know, probably from you, first, what is viable in terms of Buddhist traveling and tourism in relation to these Buddhist places, to actively prepare my own data and maybe my participation in a useful and feasible way, as I'm trying right now, standing in front of you. And secondly, what the travel business and tourism industry could want from people like me in other terms. I'm convinced that if we can enter a meaningful discussion about what both sides are willing and able to put in, Buddhist tourism can develop in the multifaceted way for which it certainly has the potential, I would claim. To start this conversation, I happily agreed, and I'm going back to the beginning of my talk, to present here at this event and give a keynote speech. Personally, I think that to make the Buddhist circuit work, it has also to make crossing borders, and here I mean political borders as well, of course, easier. Following the Buddha biography, as we know, then means starting in Lumbini. This is in the Nepalese Terai, so you have to go from there to India or the other way around. And I've made these trips several times, sometimes in a horrible fashion, as you can imagine. I myself know from experience that it can be quite a challenging experience. Now, I did something wrong here. Oh, yeah, okay. No, I know why, because I'm switching the wrong one. I come to this in a moment. This will be probably one of the last slides. Now, crossing borders may be difficult. I could not do it with this thing, which you have here on the slide, which is my pride and joy, my motorbike at home. But we need to develop facilities to do that. So if you want to make this crossing the border possible and not have tourists wait at the Sunauli border, I don't know, an hour, 2 hours, having bad road conditions, not here now, I've seen the roads now, but on the Indian side, I mean, I had a horrible experience. Something has to be done, and it has to be done in a cross-border fashion. Yeah, and this is pretty much probably what I wanted to say now. This picture probably doesn't make sense at the moment, other than I said, well, I couldn't ride this thing from, let's say, Gorakhpur to Lumbini. I would like to, and I would like to do it because this is a package, for instance, I would immediately jump on. If somebody would organize something like this, an alternative Buddhist circuit where people actually can ride on a Royal Enfield all the way through the Buddhist circuit. I'm on board. I know it's politically not correct. It's not really economically and environmentally sustainable, but I mean, it can be done. So with this, I would like to end with a very kind of rough Sanskrit phrase, Baudayatra Sarvada Siddham Astu Mangalam Astu. Thank you very much. And now the good thing is I don't have to answer questions right now. That's the keynote advantage.
Thank you so much, Professor Max Dick, for your very insightful talk, presentation about, especially on the history of Buddhist pilgrimage, the trail, how important is it, and the Buddhist circuit, it should be starting from Lumbini, the birthplace of Buddha. So the time is running out, and then I will not take much time. Thank you for your patience. And we have another session, which is business session, and then a number of 5-6 presenters, well-known businessmen. They will be presenting, they will be talking about various aspects of the tourism sector. Because this particular BITM, we have different type of sessions, like more academic and business also. So tomorrow morning also we have very academic session, and now onward we have another session, that is business session. So before wrapping up this particular keynote session, I'll request volunteers to bring token of love for the speaker. Now for the next business session, I'll request Shraddha Joshi to come here. Thank you. Volunteers please. Cheers.
in the tourism industry. And the third one is when we talk about the mountains, then it becomes a kind of a destination for some certain age group, a specific age group who are young, above 20, you can say, or or below 60 years. So when you are young, you are strong, then only Nepal is a destination for you, because Nepal has an image of a mountain. So because of this image, Nepal is losing a lot of things. And that's why the major challenge for the Nepal Tourism Board or the whole Nepal tourism industry is to change our overall image. So this year, we were trying to introduce Nepal with the new brand saying Nepal beyond Himalayas or the beyond mountains, something like that. This is one challenge. This is for the overall Nepal. But when we come to the Lumbini itself, again, which has a huge potentiality, but only 60,000 people are visiting here, or the data says only from the Sri Lanka, but they are coming in the morning and going back in the evening, or there are, people who are staying in the Lumbini, the number is quite less. And again, the problem is here also, Lumbini means Mayadevi temple. This is again the one image that was developed. So how we can take the people, how we can give the information to the people, and that's why I think this year we have put the beyond Lumbini, a kind of a theme that beyond Mayadevi temple. Now if we say that, what are those places? How many people who visit Lumbini, they know about the Tilora Court? As Professor was showing before, Kudan, Devdaha, Ramagram, Nigli Hawa, Sagar Hawa, Koti Hawa, and these are something that are directly and indirectly related with Buddha's life. And together, within this area, within this province, we have other beautiful places like Triveni, which is closely associated with Ramayana, where the Love Kush grown up, Balmiki Ashram is there. So, similarly, at some distance from here, in a couple of hours, we can reach to a destination called Swargadwari. That is related with the Mahabharata, again, where the Pandavas did the last Havan, or a kind of a religious, I don't know how many of you, what called in the Havan in English, I don't know, but it is a kind of a religious activity, and they went to the Swarga. So, those places are there, how many people knows? Okay, you are not religious, you don't care about this, then there are beautiful 2 national parks at the distance of certain distance. How many people really know about that? Or are we the tour operator, the people who are in the tourism industry, are we including those national parks in our itinerary or not? That is in Chitwan and in the Bardia, in some distance, but those beautiful 2 national parks are there, which can be included in the packages if the people decided to stay longer. So these are some of the things that, and at another side, when we look at the Indian, especially the geographic region our border side, if you look at the adjoining part of the India, that is the lowland, and they have a very high temperature there during the summer. Though in Lumbini also we have that, but in 1 hour drive, we can reach to a certain height, which is around 1500 to 2000 meters, where the temperature goes significantly low. And how many really of us are selling or introducing those areas? Either the Srinagar of Palpa or here this Narpani in Argakhachi. So those are also some of the beautiful places that we need to promote, looking at the temperature benefit, so that the people can enjoy their winter and even the summer. Summer, obviously, because of the high altitude, they can enjoy the good low temperature. During the winter also, they can enjoy the sunshine when whole the Indo-Gangetic plain is under the fog. That is something very, very important that people don't know. So, when we think about the Lumbini, we need to think little in a bigger scale. We need to include the sites, different sites that are related with the Buddha. At the same time, some natural sites and some other religious sites that are either related with the Mahabharata or the Ramayana. So, doing so, we can promote this area. And another is one of the issues in this morning was also I was telling, in many countries still in their course book, they said that Gautam Buddha was born in India. But now, I think slowly, that people start to understand, and in many of the course book, even in the Korea, we realized that our embassy was appreciating, oh, they have this in the course. So I think in many countries, now they understand that. And now another question that came, so where to start the journey? So after me, the 4 places the people will visit. What was said? Obviously, if you go the clockwise, should be start from the birth. You understand where if you get the knowledge about this area, then only you can go to the next point where he got the enlightenment. Then you can visit another place where he gave the first speech and where he got the nirvana. So doing so, I think this is the right way. But geographically, if you look at that, that is something like not that easy. But somehow we need to establish that. That is also one. Another, or maybe we can start from Nepal and ending from the India. We have to make the packages together with the Indian tour operators in the same way, and have to give these itineraries to the people who are selling the Buddhism circuit in any part of the world. Doing so, we can promote this area in much better way. And another issue is the number of when we talk about the tourism, it is not only what you have and how you are selling, what packages you are making. Together it comes that what sort of the environment is there. Whatever time we talk about the promotion, this and that, but when the travelers are traveling, they need, they care about the facilities available in the border. Every pilgrim who came to Lumbini from any part of the country who come from the India, when I talk to them, they always complain. We have 4 hours, it took us 4 hours in India and 4 hours in Nepal immigration. So what does that mean? So until and unless we will not make it much easy in the both countries, so we need a bilateral talk with the India so that we can make it much easier. That is very, very important. Second, currency is another issue. Now, number of countries, even the Nepali citizen, if you want to travel somewhere, only our banks are giving us $200. Can you imagine to travel with $200 in your hand? No. So I think the similar condition in other countries as well, all the Buddhism countries. So we need if the government G2G agreement can be made, so that they can exchange their own currency in Nepal. Doing so, we can facilitate, people can spend more. It will be much easier for the traveler to come with the money, and there will be no, we can solve that issue by doing some G2G agreement. And another, people talk about the multiple entry visa. It's claim, normal, Nepal is giving a multiple entry visa, there is no problem, but people from Bangladesh, people from Sri Lanka, they complain me that, the tour operators especially complain that when they apply for the Buddhist circuit, they are getting just one single entry visa in India. Doing so, if they come to Nepal, they have to fly back from here, because this problem can also be solved on the bilateral things. So I think today we are here with the BIMSTEC team. So if we work together, I think within these 7 countries we can do, we can facilitate that. For the currency things, we can issue in the border problems, we can solve. It has to be taken seriously by all the stakeholders, and because now we have people from the different countries. I would like to request you all to make a request to your government also to give, some kind of incentives, or at least to approach Nepal for the currency things, for the visa things, so that these problems can be jointly solved. Or if you are really, and tour operators know that if they can do a charter flight or the regular flights can operate or not, if you give a positive message to your airlines companies, I think they will approach the Nepal government also. And from the Nepal side also, our secretary was here, we also need to think very seriously about all these points, because the ultimate benefit is going to come to Nepal. So saying this, I think, Nepal Tourism Board and all the authorities who are directly, indirectly related with the tourism, we need to make a atmosphere or the environment that is more friendly to the tourism industry. And for that, we need a support from the other countries as well. So let's work together and bring more tourists to this holy place. Saying this, I would like to complete my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. It's really in time. So now I request Bikram Pandey, sir, Goodwill Ambassador of LDT, Tourism Entrepreneur. The topic is Marketing of Buddhist Tourism Challenges and Opportunities. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Bidari, sir. It's an honor to be saying something under your chairmanship. So today I see many of you are Nepali speaking audience, and many of you are English-speaking audience also. So I will allow me to say a few little things here and there in Nepali language also. So I have been given the topic, Marketing of Buddhist Tourism, Challenges and Opportunities. So I will speak in a threefold. And obviously, I'm not an academic or academia talking in academic formalities or typology or methodology. So I'm like a tourist. So I talk like a tourist because I have to attract tourists to Lumbini and Kapilvastu by telling nice stories so that we could promote tourism, we could promote tourism economy, and we could uplift Lumbinian and Kapilvastuian people of this Buddha land by tourism economy. Okay, I will start with our APTO Secretary General, Dr. Kaulesh Kumar is here. I was invited a few years back in Bodh Gaya, and there we had the honor to meet one of the very highly respected Lama. His name is Mr. Lama Lobjang, no? He's from what, IBC? Yeah. So the Lama Lobjang said, in Bodh Gaya, we have more pilgrims, but in Bodh Gaya, we want tourists, because he also thought tourists bring tourism, tourism brings tourism economy, and it uplifts people. And few years back, let me remind you, ladies and gentlemen, when the president of China visited Nepal and Kathmandu, he gave a speech in his own language, but I'm just trying to use some of his expression. He said, in China also, Buddhism is coming up as a national religion. So these are the people who will visit your country in future. These Chinese are going to be the tourists to visit Lumbini and Kapilvastu in future. And Chinese tourists are a little bit high spender tourists, so they will bring some samriddhi, some prosperity to your country. I mean, I have presented it in my own language, but it was the gist of his message. So that was the message of Chinese President Xi Jinping few years back. So in the similar context now, I would like to go back to what Buddha has said, because we have all the academics here, Basanta sir and keynote speaker. I believe Buddha has said, Buddhism is not a religion, it's a way of life. And well, my followers, my shishyas, after my death or after I am no more, the people who follow us, our followers, will visit 4 important steps of my life, and they will, purify, spiritualize themselves by visiting the 4 important places of my life. That is Lumbini, where I was born; Bodh Gaya, where I attained enlightenment. I think he must have said Uruvela. That time there was no Bodh Gaya, it was Robert or some Cunningham. Is it? Okay, it must have been a forest. So, where I attained enlightenment, and Saranath, where I gave the first sermon after I attained enlightenment, and Kusinara, where I shall be passing away or take a Mahaparinirvana. So, as Buddha has said, our followers will visit Lumbini. So, Buddha has advocated tour or tourism 2,700 years ago or 600 years ago. So this is what we need in Nepal also. I must clarify to you that in our country, if there is any entrepreneurial sector or industrial sector where all Nepalese from all caste and creed and all, part of the country, that is only tourism. Himal, Pahad, Tarai, Mechi, Mahakalika, Nepaliहरू समावेश भएको कुनै पनि उद्यम क्षेत्र छ भने त्यो टुरिज्म हो। तपाईले आजको इन्डस्ट्री, ट्रेड एन्ड कमर्स हेर्नुस्, एउटा सानो सानो परिवारले सम्हालिदिएको छ, चलाइदिएको छ ताकि नेपाल चलिराखेको छ। तर इफ यु टक अबाउट अ नेसन फ्रम मेची टु महाकाली, फ्रम हिमालय टु द प्लेन्स, that is Tarai, where everybody is playing their part, that is only tourism. So that's why we need tourism. Why? To uplift societies, whether we call it Lumbini, whether we call it all over Nepal. In the mountain, they call adventure tourism. In the cities, they call cultural tourism. Here we are talking about Buddhist tourism. So tourism has brought great changes, transformation of the societies in the mountain. I'll give you one example. In 70 years, this year is the 70th year, Everest has been climbed. Sir Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay climbed Mount Everest 70 years back. And because they brought education and tourism in Khumbu Highland, which is 70 years, within these 70 years, and 70 years is nothing in a life of a nation. Today, the Sherpa people have become the global entrepreneur of the world within a 70 years of time. So this is how tourism has transformed societies. Look at Annapurna, look at Lantang, how tourism has transformed societies. So they have become real, entrepreneurs. They have become small industry owners, and they have become today the real day-to-day engine of our economic society. So that is why we need tourism in Lumbini Kapilvastu to uplift Lumbinian and Kapilvastuian, Ramgramayan or Kolian to uplift their economic status. And that is how we can do it by tourism, because we have many successful stories, successful data, and successful, application. So here I go now to opportunities in Buddhist tourism. There are many opportunities in Buddhist tourism because the market is big. As Chinese president has said, in China, people are, coming out. People, the Buddhism is getting very popular. It's not that they were converting religion, like Christians are doing. They were all hiding themselves. But when the government policies became more open, they started to, seen live. They started to come out in the street as a Buddhist. So today, if you go back to the data of United Nations, they show 550 million Buddhist population, which is 55 crore. But if you take China, Russia, and the Muslim countries altogether, it crosses over 1,000 million. So 1,000 million Buddhists means we have 1,000 million opportunities. We have 1,000 million tourists to visit our place. We have 1,000 million, holiday maker, visitor to spend money in our country, in our area. And that is going to contribute the economy, the grassroots economy to rise, to work like a proper tourism economy. And that will transform the societies like it has transformed in Khumbu, in Sherpa country. Sherpa दाजुभाइहरू 70 वर्ष अगाडि र अहिले within 70 years of time and especially 50 years of time हाम्रा दाजुभाइहरूले अहिले उनीहरू airline owner, hotel owner, constructor, builders, bankers, what they are not, doctors, professors, PhDs, what they are not within 50 years. So the same success theory can be applied in Lumbini Kapilvastu by promoting Buddhist tourism. So, and it is easy. It is not that difficult. Everybody has to be a little proactive, you know. खाली अर्काको कुरा काटेर खाली क्रिटिसाइज गरेर मात्र पुग्दैन अलिकति प्रोएक्टिभ भयो भने यो सम्भव छ बिकज बुद्धिज्म has become the greatest global brand. मैले भने नि 1,000 million people now. Greatest global brand. Please allow me to use it in an economic angle also sometime. Having said that, I am not trying to undermine Buddhism or Buddha because his way of life principles has also given the birth of an economy which is called tourism economy. So Buddha has become some kind of a brand now. People, take him as a brand also because he is not a, Prophet Muhammad. He is not Jesus Christ. He was a, crown prince of Sakya kingdom. He was a human being like you and me. So that's why people have been taking him in different, perspective to suit their progress and development and which is true because he was a human being. And this big population of Buddhists are very close by. Take the name of country Thailand, Sri Lanka, China, Cambodia, Vietnam, Myanmar, even India. We have a very big, population of Buddhists in India, and India is a very, very, well-grown economy now, and they have been traveling everywhere. And we have Japan also, which is a little bit far. So these are all the markets which are waiting for us. We just have to build, create some friendly atmosphere. We just have to make our, Lumbini International Airport a little bit practical, not conservative. Sometimes I see that people in Nepal think, oh, they have to come here, otherwise there is no way. No, that is wrong. We have to create some comfortable, interesting atmosphere so that people can come. People would like to come. So we have to improve this little small thing. If we can improve this, we have 1,000 million Buddhist tourists waiting to visit our country at a comfortable and interesting environment. So for that, what we have to do, we have to improve a little bit of infrastructure. We have to improve, like international airport, which is just 20 kilometers away, which is nothing. And we have to, a little bit recreate, reinvent, some kind of a touring activities of this sacred garden and monasteries. And good road to Lumbini, which is happening, obviously. And luxurious hotels are coming. This is one of the luxurious hotels. And, nature. Buddha has always advocated stay close with the nature. Don't go away from the nature. So we need bird sanctuaries, animal sanctuaries, so we need these all. Skyscrapers have not been endorsed by Buddha anywhere. He has always talked about the normal, nature and natural beauty. So we can promote Lumbini in manifold, okay? By offering what we already have, by we offering adding a little bit more extra, attractions like Buddhist Studies Center, something like we can, little bit copy what Nalanda used to be once. I'm not trying to say that Lumbini should be Nalanda, but, something can be copied. And, or inspired of. And intellectual activities, the intellectuals and academia, you know, like Basanta Bidari sir and our keynote speaker type of the people should be invited from time to time, and you know, they should brainstorm what could be done and how it should be done in future, and give some plan and plan of action. These are all, you know, attractions, and meditation centers, yoga and wellness. So these are also kind of a facilities which will attract more diverse section of the Buddhist and non-Buddhist tourists. I will just tell you, just few days back, Amir Khan, one of the, great or very successful actor from Bollywood, he has come to Kathmandu. He has gone to Shivapuri, to take this Vipassana. Look at this. When Amir Khan has come, other Khan will also follow, because India has a big following to their, favorite stars. So that way, it will multiply. So in the same way, I think Buddha also did, Basanta sir is here, I think Buddha's speciality was also Vipassana, no? He also did the same. So these are all future products and future attraction to make Lumbini an outstanding destination. And के भन्छ गन्तव्य स्थल होइन कि महागन्तव्य स्थल. So when I was given a job of a goodwill ambassador, because I had done beautiful, and successful work in Mount Everest by creating Mount Everest Marathon, because during the Maoist time, our tourism had gone down, nosedived, and I had to, reinvent it, to revive it to some extent. Of course, not 100%. It became successful. It has become so successful now. It has become one of the iconic sports, running sports tourism in Sagarmatha, Mount Everest. And it has extended 1 month tourist season. So that is how I came here, to invent and reinvent. So in the process, I made some beautiful program, because tourists have to stay here longer than half an hour or 1 hour, as it used to be the case. So we started the long buried program of the Great Renunciation. For 2,613 years, the Guru Purnima day, when Crown Prince Siddhartha Gautam rode on a horse and renounced the palatial luxury life in search of the truth, we revived it. Okay, now that is going to be one good product in the future, and very soon we are also going to revive the great renunciation of 500 women, led by Mahaprajapati Gautami. That is also going to be there, and we have started celebrating the homecoming of Lord Buddha on the full moon day of March, and I have done I was doing a lot of research, and I took the help of Basanta Bidari. And we have launched a very interesting program called Mother Mayadevi Maternity Route, which is 36 kilometers. We can divide it within, okay, 1 minute. We can divide it into 3 days, and that will be another added attraction. And then we have, reinvented the sports. The marathon running was run in Greece as a athletic sports, but we have reinvented it as a spiritual sports, which is very popular. We have Kapil Bastu, we have Kudan, we have Ramgram, we have Devdaha, and the birthplace of Mother Maya Devi. So these are all attractions. Now the challenges are, lack of coordinated effort. The government and the stakeholders must sit down and work together with the private sector, and we have to increase the number of nights stay, which we are doing, and strict vigilance at immigration not to allow any foreigners without visa. And we must display all hoarding board in different languages that you are in Lumbini, Nepal, birthplace of Lord Buddha, from Bhairava to Lumbini, simplify the frontier formalities, promotion and marketing of Gautam Buddha International Airport in Buddhist countries by providing different facilities. Gratis visa must be given to popularize this Lumbini Gautam Buddha Airport, and creation of forum of tour operators from Nepal and India. We must work together with India, because we have only one place out of the Buddhist circuit, that is Bharat, but 3 places are in India. So Nepal and India must work together, and we must do the joint promotion, Nepal and India, because Buddha's 3 important places are in India and 1 important place is in Nepal. So waive or give discount little bit for the Gautam Buddha International Airport, and we have to promote a special package from time to time. We have to invite press and media, and we have to organize, fan trips. We will be successful, because it is as per Lord Buddha, they have to visit Lumbini. So we will be successful because we have 1,000 million Buddhist tourists around the world waiting to visit Lumbini. And the success is there, growth is there, and economic upliftment is there by tourism economy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vikram sir, for your profound knowledge about this, the Buddhist marketing. Now I will request Ramu Joshi, Tourism Development Council, Lumbini Province, on the role of media on branding Buddhist tourism, culture, and heritage. Okay, then next, I will request Achyut Guragai, NATTA's vision and networking with the World Buddhist Destination. Please, floor is yours.
Thank you, Basantadai. Good afternoon, everyone. Seems it is monotonous. Is it hot? Because I have seen everybody very sad and half asleep. I just trying to wake up you all. Namaste, and all the respected dignitaries, presenter, and especially the keynote speaker. Thank you, Professor. It is a wonderful presentation, and we are really delighted that even we didn't know much about the history, and you know better, more better than us, even more than our scholars. I'm given just given me a presentation that is responsibility to introduce NATTA, what is NATTA, and what NATTA does. Very in short, NATTA was established in 1966, and the same year I was born. And that was before the tourism ministry established. And it was established by some of the people in tourism who are now our seniors. They are still alive, some of them already gone. It is proud feeling to introduce NATTA by myself, because some of the past presidents were here this morning in opening session. And it is proud to be NATTA member and proud to be the president of NATTA. I really feel proud because it is history. And that is the historic association. And I feel also happy to inform all the delegates from different countries, respected delegates and the keynote speaker, that NATTA is working with Tourism Board, with the government of Nepal, Ministry of Tourism. I think almost half of the event Tourism Board doing, there is partnership of NATTA. But NATTA only not doing this kind of event, NATTA also trying to bring all the associations together in the same platform. So if we unite, then we can be strong and we can do better. This is just introducing NATTA. I think it is enough that we are always working, the board, not only the staffs, all the board members. When this kind of event comes, we work from the morning to evening, even if necessary till night. And before coming down to Lumbini, we NATTA board members, we used to work from morning 7 to night 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, just to prepare this. So I just want to inform you that this is really our privilege. We can introduce the Buddhist tourism, that is actually the concept. We started from 2019. And that is also proud of NATTA, Nepal Association of Tour and Travel Agents, because this kind of event, normally in other country, either the National Tourism Organization or national organization or event organizer does this kind of event. Luckily, NATTA is doing this event. Actually, there is presentation, some pictures and details. I'm not going on that. I'm not following that. Now I'm just trying to inform you all that three things. One, NATTA, who is NATTA. The second is why Buddhist International Travel Mart started. And then the third, why Lumbini and why not in Kathmandu? Because this place is the birthplace of Buddha, and we were always saying, going Europe, going America, doing promotion, tourism promotion, we always saying Buddha was born in Lumbini, Nepal. But we are not doing anything in Lumbini to promote Lumbini, to promote Buddha birthplace. That is why the Buddhist International Travel Mart concept, I should say or not, it was personally myself and Bikram Pandey when we were in Pakistan. Maybe I could do like Bikram Pandey doing the Everest Marathon, maybe from my company Sea and Sky Tour. But I thought this event should be done by my association, NATTA, so that the association will be highlighted. Not for making money, making Nepal popular, making Lumbini popular. And made the concept. I spent 3 months and I Googled how WTM was started, how ITB Berlin started, how Fitur was started. Then there were some people, just few people in the beginning, tour operator, they started. And then later the event organizer took over. So this is a really happy moment that it should be the 5th edition, but only the 2nd edition we are doing here, but we are doing it. And tomorrow, one day, same like the Muslim people, the Makkah, Medina, all over the world's Buddhist people will come to Lumbini. For them, it is same like Makkah, Medina. So this is what we thought. And after my concept paper, I went to the minister. That time, the Rabindra Adhikari, that time Rabindra Adhikari was the minister, tourism. And the tourism secretary was Krishna Prasad Devkota. I would like to mention their name because they listen. They listen my concept, they listen me, and they believe that we can do it, and they suggested tourism board, NATTA, and the government of Nepal Ministry of Tourism, all the tourism association together, we should do this. That is why all the tourism association, hotel association, PATA, this morning PATA president was also here. All the association together, we are in this event by physically or mentally or financially. But financially, definitely tourism board, that is their job to promote Nepalese tourism. So tourism board always there to support us, to promote Nepal tourism. And in Lumbini, we are promoting because the Buddhist International Travel Mart, many people suggested it should be in Kathmandu. No, this should be in Lumbini. And if we really want to develop and promote the tourism product of ours, we have to do this kind of event everywhere, all part of Nepal. Then another concept, Dr. Dhananjay Regmi and myself, we always, people think we are brother and we work together. No, our concept is similar. The concept similar, then we can work together. That is the fact. And thank you, Tourism Board, Dr. Dhananjay Regmi. And I would really like to thank then Minister and Secretary, Tourism Secretary, that they really encouraged to start this Buddhist International Travel Mart. And I really like to thank the NATTA board, present board, led by Ramesh Thapa and all the secretariat people. And actually, I would like to also, because this, taking the opportunity, not doing the presentation, actually I'm here to inform, to give the information. And giving the information, I would like to thank you, goes to Professor, keynote speaker, because you came from so long way, and I was surprised. Within just a few days, you confirmed this kind of session, if you don't come here, and we would be doing nothing. So thank you very much, everyone, and I think my time also finished, given time. One more thing I would like to mention here, Kaulesh Ji from Bodh Gaya. This Buddhist circuit, we need to promote together. That is what I want to mention. Together, not saying like India and Nepal. Buddhist circuit, and we already have made the package covering from Kathmandu to Lumbini, and then Bodh Gaya, Varanasi, and Kushinagar. There are so many other places. And let's promote this itinerary, this Buddhist circuit, for the benefit of Nepalese people and the Indian people, not only for Nepalese, not only for India. And this Buddhist International Travel Mart will bring prosperity in this region. Thank you to all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. So now I request respected Binay sir, Binay Saha, President Han. The topic is hospitality management, essential about the hospitality. Thank you, sir. Cheers.
Thank you very much, Basant sir. Namaste. Good afternoon, everybody. The topic, hospitality management, the essence of hospitality. I would like to start with an account. Can we have the picture? Actually, in Nepal, we have a big, massive earthquake in 2015. And there was a New Zealand television news reporter. He was reporting earthquake devastation in Kabre, which is very near to Kathmandu. And as you can see in the picture, this old lady, who herself, her house was completely destroyed, and she was living in a relief camp. And this old lady, she offered some food to the New Zealander reporter. So that kind of hospitality, and the reporter was very much amazed, and he wrote number of articles on the hospitality that he received in Nepal. That kind of hospitality we Nepalese have in our blood. And from our early childhood, every child is taught by his parents that Atiti Deva Bhava, the visitors are God. So whoever comes to our house, we offer whatever we have. So this industry, the Nepalese hospitality industry, was started in 1951, after Nepal was open to the outside world. Now, this industry is one of the most professionally operated industry in the country. We generate about 7.9% of the GDP as per World Bank report. We have nearly, exact figure is difficult to get, but estimate says we have about 10,000 guest houses, hotels, motels, lodges across the country. And we can cater, as of now, 3.5 million customers, tourists, domestic tourists, whoever comes to our business, we can provide them standard accommodation, food, entertainment, conference facilities. This industry, the the net worth of the hospitality industry of Nepal is about the national, equals the national budget of the country. And the industry employs about 11 lakh, that is 1.1 million staffs. And interesting to note, of 30% of them are female. The accommodation hospitality industry is across the country. So wherever a tourist, international, regional, or domestic tourist goes, they can find some kind of accommodation for food, a nice bed. And the number of hotels investment is on rise. Even during the COVID period, hospitality industry, hotel industry was one that the investment never stopped. Now we have about, at the moment there are about 100 different sizes hotels, resorts are in the pipeline, are in the construction, and some of them are already ready to open. We are here for BITM, so here also in Lumbini area, especially after this GBIA, the Gautam Buddha International Airport is constructed, there are a number of standard luxury hotels like this in this area. There are many. So whoever comes, whoever wants the budget or luxury, whatever types of accommodation is required, we can provide them. So there are different segments that the hospitality industry caters. Like we have ecotourism, we have sustainable religious tourism, health tourism, yoga tourism, gastronomy, and spiritual tourism that we have here is on the rise. So the activities, the event like this, I'm sure will go a long way to attract this place, Lumbini, as a birthplace of Buddha, to the outside world, and number of visitors to this area will rise ahead. So this, briefly, this is all I have to tell. And because number of hotels, number of tourists is on rise, so we need to standard has to be fixed because we are a service industry and standard is very key. So our government has come up with the hotel standards that is from 5-star deluxe to tourist resort or resort. So different standards are in place. So government enforces, government inspects the standard regularly so that our customer who enjoys our services are offered the standard that is in practice in this present contemporary world. This is all I have to tell you at the moment, and if there is any questions, I will be pleased to answer that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Now I'd like to request Yuvika Bhandari, Secretary NATTA. Topics is travel industry and digital transformation when tourism goes digital. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, sir. I'm giving topic on digital transformation, and I myself am having problem with my slides because I was planning to present by a link directly via internet, but internet being very slow here, I have to opt out for a video. So I'll have to ask his assistant at times to stop the video and play it again because even the remote is not working for that. Can we have the video, please? Good evening, everyone. I'll be just telling a few things before the video comes up. Travel industry is a major contributor to the global economy. A major contributor to the global economy has always evolved, adapted, and grown. Today, technology is playing a significant role in the transformation of the travel industry. The travel industry in Nepal has been lagging behind in adopting digital transformation, which has become increasingly important to stay competitive. in the global market. As the world becomes more connected and travelers rely on digital channels to plan, book, and share their experiences, it is crucial for Nepalese travel companies to adapt to these changes. However, the industry in Nepal is still dominated by the traditional business models, and there is lack of awareness and investment in the emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence, data analytics, and cloud computing. More than that, now we have difficulty. Slides are back. I want to start this presentation with a small line. Digital transformation is like, in travel, is like learning a new language. Challenging yet rewarding. Okay. What is digital transformation, you may ask? It is just not digitalization of paperwork into a computer. It is a holistic approach of how you are going to change the company's strategic planning, how you will be doing that. That's why it is stuck in this one, because the video play is certain seconds for all the slideshows. I'm unable to change. Okay. In order to make, digital transformation, we not only need to change our concept, like why we need digital transformation. It is a very high economic transition for a company to do it by themselves. So when we are going for digital transformation, we need to change our mindset, think out of the box, why we need to do this. Because it will be helpful in providing us to get a better result for the company as a whole. In this slide, the white transformation is not only on the, you can stop it please. Okay. Sorry for all of this. It's better if I just read it out. I'm going to read it out because I think we need to stop the video later. We can just play it. It is a wide transformation process that embraces the whole organization. This transformation engages all processes of a company and builds a different strategic vision on how a company acts and reacts with the radical shift in the mindset of the employees. We need to migrate all new technologies into all the areas of the company and the way we deliver our business. The change should impact the way the employees think about the business and how we interact with our customers, how we manage our data, how we organize our operation process, how we plan future business, and so on. There might arise a question why a company should spend its precious resources and energy for this type of radical change. First of all, to survive. Missing the pace with new technologies might cause the company to be blown away in a very short time. Then improving customer experiences and services, being faster in the market, better understanding of the needs and situation, being more effective in operation, example, marketing from leaflets to newspaper, to email, to online or advertisement, to communicating via different social medias. All this inclusiveness of technology brings reduction in unnecessary cost of paper, wrong targeting, unsatisfied customers, improved effectiveness, proposing services that the customers will likely buy, and collecting data about customers and trends. It will improve how we manage our data as well. Big analytics is a process to gather precious but hidden data trends, patterns or hidden correlation that could help us to make a better decision. Nowadays, every app or software are using algorithms to understand customer trends and meet what we need and buy in future, to propose what we're likely to buy. It is not an ideal situation, nevertheless. COVID emergency pushed most of the organization to deal with the new way of doing business. Before the widespread adoption of digital technologies, the travel industry relied heavily on traditional marketing and booking channels. In 2000, only 15% of the travel booking were made online, with the majority of bookings made through travel agents or directly with airlines, hotels. If I read out this, you'll get bored, I suppose. Maybe we can play the video and we'll just see how it goes. For Nepal, the motivation from the government is a very needed aspect if we want to go digital. Because going digital in our context, it will be very expensive for a company to do it alone, because we need to train our employees, we need to have the big infrastructure, we need to have good sound internet connections that we don't have here now, and we also need to have big servers as well. And for this, a company alone in Nepal won't be able to cope up with the competition that it faces from the international market. Internationally, a company may use AI help of the artificial intelligence or help of the apps, but in Nepalese context, it is very difficult to do it by a single company. So in future, if Nepal wants to go digital, then we need to collaborate, the government and the private companies need to collaborate. We need to think, like, what will be the strategic planning for the companies to go ahead. It is very necessary for that one. And from traditional companies, like we used to, like, I'm a second generation travel agent, so my father, like when I was in my primary school, what used to happen was like a group in 1980 would bring the list of the travelers of 1981. So we already knew like who our customers would be in the future, how many bags would be catering to, and after that we had telex transfers. Telex information, and it went on. Went on from that. Then we had fax. We were so happy that in the real time we could get the name of the group members that will be visiting us, and then the email. And now with the help of all the apps, WhatsApp, Viber, Messenger, or anything, we are now talking with our clients in real time as well. And this has made us more competitive. Before, we had time to plan, to think, but now we have to be ready on the go because of the digital transformation in a small sector. And yeah. So the music keeps on going. I just want to say a few things to add on to it. So the company needs to know what digital transformation can bring about in the company. Like before, we used to talk with our clients what their preference would be, or before that, we even didn't know what the preferences were. We just guessed, okay, we'll sell them these 3 destinations, maybe Kathmandu, Pokhara, Chitwan, or Kathmandu Darbar Square, Patan Darbar Square. Now, with the data that was available digitally, we can streamline what the clients can want. We can guess, we can predict by the trends that we are facing now, like what can be the future, what packages we can sell. Right now in Nepal, we are facing a dearth in staff for our company, and the AI, maybe most of you have used it, ChatGPT, Copy AI, Midjourney, and all these AI applications have made our journey quite easy. This video was actually done by Canva, and the icons were made by Midjourney, and the data for the content writing was used by ChatGPT as well. But the AI is still not so advanced in the context, because we might get wrong data, because whatever we feed in the computer, we get the results as per that. So I have highlighted few things that were the opportunities, challenges, and what we need to look for the future. Yeah, I'll just wrap it up. And at the end, I would like to show you all a video which can be the future of travel industry. It's an ad. It's still a few minutes to go by. It's an ad made by an AI, talked by an AI. Only the few informations were fed by a human being, and everything was generated. There are few companies like Copy AI where you just have to put few information and they can make a good itinerary as per your preferences. Sorry for all the complications in this presentation. Like this is the copy of example of a Copy AI, where in the destination you just have to feed in the few things. Where you want to go, what kind of group you are having, what are your preferences, what is your type of budget. just a matter of a few seconds. This is Plan AI. You can just go and have a look at it. And in context of Buddhism,
the power of AI in tourism and travel.
The one I was talking about.
Hello
is
and welcome to this video on the potential of AI in the travel and tourism industry. In today's world, travel has become an integral part of our lives. We love to explore new places.
So thank you very much, Yubika ji. Now it's a floor discussion, question and answer. Please, you just raise your hand who want to put the questions, to whom you want to ask, and introduce yourself with the questions. Okay, Kamlesh ji.
थैंक यू वेरी मच सर. मेरा नाम कौलेश कुमार है, सेक्रेटरी जनरल एवीटीओ, एसोसिएशन ऑफ बुद्धिस्ट टूर ऑपरेटर. मेरे क्वेश्चन तो नहीं है, सजेशंस हैं. सबसे पहले धनंजय सर से. सर ने बहुत सारे चीज़ों बताया. मार्केटिंग का थोड़ा सा हम एक उदाहरण देना चाह रहे हैं सर. 54 कंट्री, 60 कंट्री तो आपके पास लुम्बनी में है सर. जब हम उसको एक मोनास्ट्री दे सकते हैं, कोरिया मोनास्ट्री, सिंगापुर मोनास्ट्री, सब कुछ यहाँ दे सकते हैं, तो वो अपने कंट्री में एक छोटा सा ऑफिस नहीं दे सकता हमें. अभी बोरोबुडूर में हम अपना एवीटीओ का ऑफिस हुआ है इंडोनेशिया में. उसने क्या किया है कि सिंगापुर में उसका एक ऑफिस है, बोरोबुडूर डेवलपमेंट सोसाइटी करके, या प्रमोशन सेंटर. हम तो कर सकते हैं ना लुम्बनी का. दूसरी चीज तो 50-60 कंट्री में तो हमारा ऐसे ही प्रमोशन हो जाएगा सर. दूसरी चीज सर, हम लोग बुद्धिस्ट सर्किट, बुद्धिस्ट डेस्टिनेशन लुम्बनी को कहते हैं. क्यों नहीं हम एक नया सर्किट करें, वर्ल्ड हेरिटेज साइट्स, यूनेस्को अप्रूव्ड ऐसे, क्योंकि लोग जो हैं सारे बुद्धिस्ट नहीं है, सारे हिंदू नहीं है. तो वर्ल्ड हेरिटेज, अरे ये नालंदा जो है वर्ल्ड हेरिटेज में है, इसको देखना है. लुम्बनी वर्ल्ड हेरिटेज में, तो ऐसे भी यंगर्स लोग आएंगे सर. थैंक यू सर. दूसरा, हम पांडे सर से, क्योंकि वो एवीटीओ के फाउंडर भी रहे हैं, डेडिकेशन उनके जैसा हो. जब पहली बार हम लोग मिले थे तो बुद्ध गया को लुम्बनी से कैसे जोड़ना है, तो उसमें एक शब्द उन्होंने बोला था, अभी भी बोलते हैं कि कॉलेज, अगर लुम्बनी और बोध गया के लिए, बोध गया का मतलब होता है एक राक्षस बहुत बड़ा, अगर उस राक्षस के साथ चाय भी पीना पड़े तो हम पीने के लिए तैयार हैं, लेकिन बुद्ध गया लुम्बनी को हम जोड़ेंगे. इसको कहते हैं डेडिकेशन, कोऑपरेशन, कोऑर्डिनेशन, और वो कह सकते हैं आप. अवसर आपने बताया कि इंडिया में, अच्युत सर, इंडिया में ज़्यादातर वो करते हैं, हम लोग को मिल के काम करना है. देयर वाज टाइम सर कि इंडिया में बहुत सारे टूर ऑपरेटर होते थे, वो लुम्बनी को करते थे. अब लुम्बनी से, नेपाल से, काठमांडू से हम लोग ग्रुप को लेते हैं सर. अभी तान के प्रेसिडेंट से हमने वियतनाम का ग्रुप लिया सर, और वो ले जाते हैं सर. अब हम लोगों को इंडिया नेपाल नहीं देखना है, बुद्धिस्ट सर्किट या जो भी सर्किट हो, रिलीजियस सर्किट या स्पिरिचुअल सर्किट देखना है सर. इधर बहुत ज़्यादा डेवलप हो गया 10 साल के अंदर सर. अभी ITM आ गया, IBTM आ गया सर. होटल एसोसिएशन से पर्सनल रिक्वेस्ट है सर, सीजन में इतने रेट बढ़ जाते हैं सर. अभी भी हमारे दोस्त आ रहे हैं यहाँ पे, तो आप साथ में हैं, 150 लोगों का ग्रुप है, तो थोड़ा थोड़ा इस चीज को देखना है. ऐसा नहीं है कि हमारे पास एक बाजार में इस चीज है और जरूरत है किसी को तो हम ज्यादा पैसा ले. इस चीज को रखना है सर. इंडिया में भी प्रॉब्लम है, पूरे एशिया, हमारे एवीटीओ 25 कंट्री में से हर जगह प्रॉब्लम है सर. अभी क्या हो रहा है कि बड़े, अभी आया हुआ केसरवानी, उसके 60-70 बसेस हैं सर. 10-20 बसेस तो रोज आते हैं काठमांडू पोखरा. साक्या वाला का काठमांडू में प्रॉब्लम हुआ, कुछ भी नहीं लगा गाड़ी उड़ी का, और रात में गेस्ट से जाके 10,000 रुपये उससे लिया. वो हमें कंप्लेन कर रहा है, कैसे हम वर्क करें नेपाल से. होटलों को समझाए. हम लोग कितनों टेंशन होता है इंडिया नेपाल में, विक्रम सर और हम लोग क्या होते हैं, ब्रिज का काम करते हैं. कभी पोलाइट वर्ड में बात करते हैं, कहीं कुछ हो, किसी तरह से वर्ल्ड वाइड को यहाँ लाए हम लोगों ने कि नहीं. हम लोगों को अच्छे स्टेटमेंट देना, किसी को किसी तरह प्रॉब्लम हो तो सर होटल से थोड़ा सा इस चीज़ का ख्याल रखिए सर. और हम लोग एक साथ हैं सर, एक वन टूरिज्म, वन प्लेटफॉर्म है सर. थैंक यू सर.
Thank you, Kaulish sir. Thank you very much. Anyone want to have any question, please? Okay, I didn't say anyone raised their hand. Dhananjay sir, would you like to say something for Kaulish? You want to notice for him? Okay, please.
Not much, Kaulesh, whatever you have said, I am very much agreed. Maybe we haven't, this is what I was telling, that we are not taking the initiation, and we are, we thought that everything will happen by itself. Actually, we tried in Korea. Last year, we established a Nepal Culture Center in Korea. So it was just like, some of the volunteers from there, they started there. They have put our office in the center of the city, which is quite expensive, like we call it the Darbar Mar, or in Delhi, in Konal place, something like that. In such a place, they provided one educational center, a big hall where 200 people can accompany and can, adjust it, and another is one office, dedicated office with the 6 staffs. And there are so many other countries who might love to do that same, if we request them, and the best thing is we have this many monasteries, whichever, and if we request these monasteries, and from them, if we try to open, I think that is very possible, and from that, it not necessarily we will do promotion of Nepal alone. The right thing is we need to make a, same package and have to promote from there and request. Maybe we can sell the India, Nepal, both from those countries, because now, as far as the Lumbani is concerned, I think Buddha circuit is concerned, people will visit both the countries. If we try to sell only one country, I think that is not going to be much successful. So I think we jointly can try that. So this is a good idea.
Okay, thank you, Dhananjay sir. Now is the time to present the token of appreciation to the speaker. So please, volunteer, please come forward and help me to provide this token of appreciation. So anyway, this token of appreciation is coming. In between, okay, you want to say something? Okay. Then I will conclude the session.
Thank you, Basant sir, for letting me some time. I have a couple of announcements for today and tomorrow. It was a great day for us and very busy day. We missed at some point with our schedule. However, thank you for your patience being together until now. And we still have very nice gala dinner tonight. So I would like to invite you all to join this gala dinner at 7:30 at the hotel, same hotel. And next one announcement is about tomorrow. At 9 o'clock, we'll be starting our academic session. And tomorrow we have very renowned scholars, professors. They will be talking about academics they have been doing. And ultimately that will contribute to your business, tourism business, Buddhist tourism, Buddhist circuit, whatever. What academic people are doing, you have to listen them also. It will be honor to them also, because without any business interest, they are working hard for you. So my humble request to you all, be at 9 o'clock in the hall, and let us have successful day tomorrow also. Thank you so much.
Please volunteer, come forward with the present. So now it's almost, we are in a concluding time. So thank you very much for all the speaker, very wonderful talk, and a lot of, this effort, and many things we learned from them. Here I want to say a little bit about the Buddhist sector. We are talking about Buddhist sector, whether we are carrying a Buddhist pilgrimage or Buddhist tourist, or what type of tourism we are doing it. So when we talk about the Buddhist places, either Lumbini, Tilorakot, Kushinagar, Sarnath, Sankasya, everywhere there are small ruins made of these ancient bricks. And if we talk that this structure goes back to Mauryan period, Sunga period, Kushan period, no one will be interested. So if we add some story along with that structure and with the places, then every pilgrim, they will have a very much interest on the site. So Buddhist sector especially, it's a storytelling pilgrimage according to my version. If we do not have the story of the Buddha in particular places, for example, tomorrow we go to Kapilvastu or day after tomorrow, if there is no any storyteller about the site and life of the Buddha, it will be what? Few ruins and the few trees in and around. How many minutes people can stand there? So that's why the Buddhist pilgrimage means we have to know the history of the Buddha. And secondly, I often used to tell that Buddhist sector is not very simple tourism. Even our dress code, even our speak, how we use the word, how we gesture, how we tell the story, everything is counts because it is very sensitive tourism. That's why the Buddhist sector is, we talk about the Buddhist sector, but how to do that Buddhist sector, how to handle the pilgrims, that is very, very important. Because if this morning, if we talk about the Ashoka pillar, how big, how high, and how it carried, that does not mean with the pilgrims. When we say that in the inscription second line, Hida Buddha Jate Sakyamuniti, that does the pilgrims. It is here the Buddha was born. So this is meaning for them. They don't care whether it is a 37 ton or it is brought from Chunar all the way, it's a 700 kilometer, whether it is pulled by 500 horse with the 40 wheels, they don't care for that. They want to listen, here the Buddha was born. So that's why, Buddhist sector for us is a little bit risky and responsible sector. Saying so that today's session, I end here. And thank you very much for all your patience in these things. Thank you, sir.